Saul Canelo Alvarez. A few years ago, this guy was at the very top of the boxing world. He was the undeniable pound for pound king. He was a 4-weight world champion. Well, obviously he still is a 4-weight world champion, but he was undisputed super middleweight world champion, and probably most importantly, he was regarded by the boxing fans as a guy who was willing to get in there with whoever he wanted him to fight. He would then go and beat those guys and be like, all right, who's next? Where's my next challenge? He just kept wanting to add more and more to his legacy, taking bigger and bigger risks, and that is why the fans respected him so much. You skip forward a couple years now though, in 2024, it's a whole different story when you look at the fan perception of Canelo Alvarez. We're going to go on to talk about this later in the video, but you know what it is, guys, in the boxing world right now. People are calling Canelo a guy who, as I said a few years back, was fighting anybody. He's now being called a ducker. The fans are saying he's only in it for the money. He's not taking the top level elite fights anymore. So I'm here today to talk about why this has happened and ask the important question: has the man that was the pound for pound king a few years back, Saul King Mexican Canelo Alvarez, has he fell off? Is he past it? Is he washed up? Well, let's take a look at what's changed in the last few years since he was considered the man, the guy that all the fans loved, the guy that would fight anyone. Obviously, you could say it probably started to fall off for him a little bit when I was about to say he lost his unbeaten record then, but obviously he wasn't unbeaten in the first place because he did lose to Floyd back at the age of 23. But that loss then, he could have took that. He handled that. It was to the pound for pound man at the time then. Floyd Mayweather was the man then. Canelo was the young guy. He learned a lot from that loss. He could take it, he could handle it. It didn't phase his mentality or start making him avoid hard fights in any reason because of that. He probably thought after doing well in that fight, I can go now and beat anybody else now because I'm not going to meet anybody else as good as Floyd Mayweather. Well, step in Dimitri Bivol. Canelo probably after that Floyd Mayweather fight thought, I'm never going to get outboxed again because I'm the best boxer around. Nobody's going to outbox me. He thought maybe if he goes up to light heavyweight, he'll take it up when he took on Kovalev or someone like that. I might get hurt. They might be stronger than me, but they will not outbox me. I'm the guy with the boxing skills. Well, Dimitri Bivol came in and completely sent that thought spiraling out of his fucking head, because when they did meet in May of 2022, Dimitri Bivol didn't beat him because of size, didn't beat him because of power, didn't beat him because it was up at a harder weight for Canelo. He beat him because he was a much, much better, more skilled, sharper boxer than him. And I think that is what fucked Canelo's head more than anything. If he would have got wobbled, got knocked out, he probably could have handled it. He could have blamed it on the weight. But the way he got schooled, it was nothing to do with the weight. And I think you could see the heart and the spirit go out of Canelo in that fight. When you look in the later rounds, he was just standing there taking it, not even really trying to go for the win. And I think people don't really talk about this enough. People didn't just hand him an L that night, he humbled him. And I thought maybe, though, you know them faults when you're the superstar, you've been doing it for so long. He's been doing it as a pro since 15. This was 2 years ago, so he was 32. That's 17 years fighting at the top. You've got all the money in the world. You've already achieved loads. He was probably thinking to himself in that fight, do I really want to push this anymore? Do I really want to go and have these hard wars where I'm taking beatings and I've got to come through it anymore? And then, since then, it looks like those thoughts could have come true, because look at who he fought since then. The Golovkin third fight, we can say, okay, we wanted to see that trilogy. Golovkin was past it at the time. Like, what was he, 40, 41 when they met in the ring. But we can accept that one. But Canelo probably thought, let me take that fight instead of the Bivol rematch because it's much easier. And it sounds like I'm slagging Canelo off here, by the way. He is one of my favourite fighters. He's one of the first guys I really looked up to and idolised as a boxer when I was a youngster watching it and stuff. He is a brilliant fighter, but we have to be honest about even our favourite fighters where we're doing this punditry, man, and I'll give you the most honest takes here at JP Boxing. So even if some of my favourite fighters are fucking up, I'm always going to say it. And yeah, after the Golovkin fight, who did we have next? I think it was John Ryder next. I like John Ryder, but should not have been in the ring with Canelo. Pointless fight. Obviously, he went back to Mexico. It's like an easy homecoming for him. Jamel Charlo, he brought up 2 weight divisions. Now, yes, Charlo could have made it a more exciting fight, but you're still picking a guy from 2 weights below when there was much better fights around. And then Jaime Munguia. It's not a fight I hated on, but none of it was a good fight, a good test for him, but none of these are the guys we want to see him in. None of these are the main guy we want to see him in, Mr. David Benavidez. And I did my prediction video for, and now obviously he's taking on Edgar Berlanga, which for me is a complete waste of time fight, because Berlanga is worse than Munguia, Charlo, and probably even John Ryder, if I'm honest, and much worse than a 40-year-old Golovkin. So it's another step down for Canelo when you're the unified super middleweight champion and meant to be taking on the best in the world. If you still want to be claimed and class yourself as one of the best in the world. If not, if you just want to fight for the money now, relinquish the titles and let the young hungry fighters fight for it. But yeah, anyway, I digress from my point. He's not fighting the guys that we want him to fight. And the main one, as I said, is David Benavidez. It feels like every Canelo video I do, that's what I was going to say. I mentioned this in my prediction video for Berlanga versus Canelo yesterday, if you guys want to check that out. But yeah, obviously I predicted Canelo to win. I just said it's a pretty pointless fight. Could be exciting, could be a few bombs thrown in the early rounds though. But as I said, go and check my full analysis over on my prediction video. But yeah, it's not David Benavidez. It's not the Bivol rematch. It's not one that's getting us fans really excited. It's not a guy who Canelo, if he is still one of the very best fighters on the planet, which he probably is. He's still top 10 pound for pound right now. But you're not proving that by beating these guys who are levels and levels and levels below you. So that's what I'm saying. The fan perception of him now has completely changed. And it's for good reason, because in his last 4 fights since that Bivol loss, he hasn't fought at the top level. And he is ducking, and it has to be said, I hate using the word Canelo and duck in the same sentence, but it can only be seen as one thing, the way he is avoiding David Benavidez, man. Benavidez has been calling for him, slagging him off, calling him a ducker. And if this was Canelo of 2 years ago, he would have made it a point to prove to Benavidez, prove to the fans, prove to himself that he can go and beat the Mexican monster. And yes, the Mexican monster. That's another reason why Canelo probably doesn't want this fight. He's still regarded as the Mexican king. I'm not sure what the Mexican fans' perception of him is nowadays. Obviously, I know in the boxing world, people are calling him a ducker. That's, even if he's idolising Mexico, he's got to be leaking over into that Mexican fan base a little bit, especially when the guy we all want to see him fight is Mexican as well. Is he worried about losing that Mexican throne? Does he think David Benavidez will finish his career, put a massive dent in his Mexican legacy? Well, for me, not taking the fight, not stepping up to take on that young, hungry challenger who wants your throne, especially you both being Mexican, then that is going to affect his legacy, not taking that fight, more than if he got in there, had a war and took an L. And then David Benavidez could go on to have a brilliant career, and you going to war with him near the end of your career can just look better and better and better. But you will be left, even though who's he fought? Lara, Trout, Cotto, Golovkin, Mayweather, Bivol, Caleb Plant, Billy Joe Saunders, fucking everyone. You will be remembered for people will say, oh, Canelo, do you remember him? Absolutely great fighter. He never fought David Benavidez though, did he? That's just the way boxing fans are, man. And it will linger over you forever if you do not choose to fight him. And at the minute, it looks like Canelo will retire without fighting David Benavidez. He's coming with all this bullshit. First it was, I don't want to fight other Mexicans because it's not good Mexicans. I think he even said, people don't want to see 2 Mexicans shooting each other up or something like that at one point. And I'm like, mate, you're getting in there for a boxing match and all your fans could tune in for it. This is better for the Mexican heritage, for them to watch 2 great Mexican fighters go at it. Nobody's taking L's there. It's just great all round for the Mexican people, the Mexican boxing fraternity, or whatever you want to call it. And then, yeah, he goes and fights a Mexican after saying that anyway in Munguia. And it's like a bit Tyson Fury vibes. Like, are you forgetting what you're saying to people? And then it was, oh, I want another Tyson Fury quote. I want 200 mil to fight David Benavidez, when you're not getting paid even like 60, 70 mil to fight these guys you're fighting right now. I don't know what the purses are for this Berlanga fight. Munguia, Ryder and that, but I guarantee you they're not going over 100 mil or anywhere near. So why the fuck do you want 200 mil to fight David Benavidez? It's just a way out of the fight, and for me, that more than anything showed that that is a clear duck. And yeah, I feel like this is all about, I'm talking all about David Benavidez because that is what it is. That is the fight that people want to see you have. Other than that, what other fights would be acceptable for him right now, for him to get his name back in the good books with boxing fans, should we say? Obviously, you've got the Crawford fight. People will say Crawford's going up 2 weight divisions. He's a lot smaller, but it would still be a super fight. Canelo would win that fight, and obviously he'd come out of it looking good, especially with the casuals. That could help a bit. Or I feel like the only one where people would say, okay, fair fucking play, we'll forgive you not fighting Benavidez, is if you go and get that Dimitri Bivol rematch. Then people, win or lose, they'll say, okay, he's took an L here, and he's willing to get embarrassed again to try and turn that loss around. But I don't think that one's going to happen either, man. And is it because he's past it and he can feel when he's training out now, when he feels he's in fights, that he's slowing down a little bit? It probably is. He's 34 years old, 19 years as a pro. He started really young, so he's an old 34. That's a lot of miles on the clock. He's had near like 70 fights. It's a lot of hard fights and a lot of hard wars in there too. He's got a good chin. He's elusive, but he's took a lot of bombs, took a lot of shots to the body. Hard training camps over and over again over the years. It will slow you down eventually, but you can't just use that as an excuse. Oh, I'm slightly past it now, I don't want to fight the best anymore. Go fucking do exhibitions with Floyd Mayweather then and shit like that. If you want to stick around and you want the respect of the fans still as a top fighter, you've got to fight the fucking best. Not guys like Edgar Berlanga, who even when you're nowhere near your best, you'll still wipe out. That's it, man. It's been a long rant, and I feel bad ranting about Canelo Alvarez. But to finish the video off, to answer a question, has Canelo fell off? Well, he's definitely fell off in terms of having a respect from the fans. He's definitely fell off in terms of fighting the best, and it looks like he knows himself. He's the only one who knows this right now, but he's fell off in terms of how well and how high he can compete at, because surely if he still felt he could compete at that highest level, he would be fighting the guys like David Benavidez and proving all of us fans wrong, the ones that are calling him duckers. He don't even have to be a Canelo hater to call him a ducker here. I think it's one of the most clear ducks in boxing history, how he is ducking David Benavidez. And people could come at me and say, oh, he's fought everybody else, why would he duck Benavidez? Because of that Mexican thing, he don't want to lose the Mexican throne, because he probably knows he's slightly past it now, and because Benavidez is an absolute monster who might not just beat him, but might give him a huge beating in the ring too, and fucking could even become the first guy to stop him. You never know, man. But then he could pull it out the bag. He's Canelo Alvarez. He could get in there and still beat Benavidez, still completely take him apart, and then you go down as one of the greatest of all time in the boxing world and with the Mexican fans, man. Take that risk, Canelo. If you're still about it, you're still the Mexican king, you got to take that risk and you got to fucking show it. Over to you guys now. I've ranted for a long time. Do you think he's ducking David Benavidez? I think it's clear he is. But yeah, give me your opinion on it. Has he fell off inside the ring? Has he fell off outside the ring? Is he still the man at the top? Or is he just there clinging on with the easy fights, waiting for the taking? Give me your opinion, as always, boxing fans. And as always, if you like my videos, please like and subscribe. There's more boxing talk, more honest talk coming every day here at JP Boxing. Even if I've got to slag off some of my favourite fighters, I've got to do it sometimes, man. It's pure honesty from JP here all the time. Thanks for listening.